good way to start off, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonas Cain. I'm a positivity magician. I use magic as an engagement and teaching tool to talk about how to live a positive life. And I always like to start off with sort of like a big idea. And the big idea, as I was driving up, I was trying to think, what's the big idea I want to talk about? And I think the big idea to start off is think about this. We focus a lot of attention on what we do, but we forget to focus equal attention on who we are. And there's a problem here, because if we're not thinking about who we are, it doesn't matter what we do, there's always going to be tension, right? So I thought as a good way to start off, we would do a little magic with some rope that will illustrate this idea. Let's see, Blaine. Will you check out this rope for me? You can hold on to it, pull on it, make sure there's no secret trap doors in there. Is that a real, honest-to-goodness rope that you might find at a magic store? It's the real deal, right? You're doing good. All right. So this rope is going to represent who we are. This is our inner purpose. I like to call this our inner purpose. And when we focus on our inner purpose, we can figure out who we want to be, which will be represented by a knot. So we're tying a knot. This is who we are, right? At a deep soul level, that's who we are. Now that we have the inner, here's the outer. Everyone go.
That's red.
This is red. So we have the white and we have the red. It said that who we are should also be reflected in what we do, so that our inner and outer purposes are in alignment. So we're going to see if we can transfer the knot from this rope all the way over to this rope. I'm going to stand up so you can all see. Oh, yes way. Yes way. All we have to do is remember the secret magic words. You know what the magic words are, right?
Hey, it's not like a boat. It's like a boat. It's like when you twist two ropes together.
Yeah.
You know you get what? You get the same kind of rope you might use for tying things, but it gets thicker. But both experts, I've discovered there's no secret. They melt flat in between it to make it so it won't break.
Okay. And that's important. And that's what we're doing here. We're taking the inner and outer, putting them together so that what we do doesn't break, who we are doesn't break, so we can form together. So the knots will transfer all the way to...
I think that kind of transferred.
I think it didn't work. This knot was supposed to appear over here, and that knot was supposed to disappear. It didn't work. But you know what I think was the problem? I was focusing too much on what I was doing. I forgot about the intention of what we're doing. And there's that word that we have to use. I mentioned it, but then I forgot to use it. The magic word. What's the magic word?
Well, I know one word.
What's the one word?
Tie two ropes together in one knot.
One word. But what's the one word?
Abracadabra.
That's exactly right.
I solved this problem.
You solved this problem. Now watch.
All right. So we're going to do this all together. I can't do this alone. We need everyone's help. All at the same time. We're all going to say the magic words. Abracadabra. Are you ready? I said, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. On the count of 1, 2, 3.
Abracadabra.
That was perfect. When we do it just right, watch what happens.
Whoa.
Hey.
Whoa.
Give yourselves a nice big hand. Fantastic. So this knot, well, here's the thing. This is a neat trick, but it's not about what we do. Remember, it's about who we are. It's about why we're doing this. And you did a great job giving us the word. You did a great job checking out the knot, but you didn't get to check out the knot yet, right? So you might think this is a phony baloney knot. We're going to take the knot off. Zeke, I'm going to let you take a look at the knot. You can hold on to it. Make sure that that knot is not a knot.
I know that. I know.
Is that a real knot? Is that the real deal, Zeke? No. Actually, that's the right answer. That's right. I'll take the knot back. I'll take the knot back. This really isn't a knot, because if you look closely, the knot can go right back onto the rope, which makes us ask a very important question. Well, why are we doing this? Not just how is this? I mean, it's really cool if we say why we're doing it because it's cool. But remember, it's not about exactly what we're doing. It's about who we are. And every time we meet someone, a little part of that person becomes a part of who we are, which is why we really have to be careful who we hang out with. But you guys look like you're okay. Take a look. This knot doesn't just travel to the rope, but it becomes the rope.
What?
I recently hiked in the White Mountains. There's the North and South Kinsman. Have you ever been there or heard of it? Larry has. Larry has. Have you hiked it before?
I have.
You have. It was my first time. This was a few weeks ago. And what I liked about hiking in these areas, or the Kinsman, or really any mountain, is every time we get to the summit, you're always going to see in the distance another summit. In fact, I have this little picture here. I'll pass it around. This is from another trip that I did. This was just this past weekend. I was hiking Mount St. Helens, and there's a peak in the back, and that is Mount Hood. So a few weeks ago, I was at the Kinsman. I was on the North Kinsman. I think it was the North one, and then looking over, there's the South, and then every time we get to the top of something, there's always something more to do. Think about that. Our work is never, ever done. In fact, I dare say it makes life very ambitious. And speaking of ambitious, we have an ambitious card trick. And let's see. Well, Larry, since fellow kinsman, I'll let you choose a card. I'm going to come over to you. You can choose any card you like. I'll keep them face down. Choose any card you like. And don't show me what the card is, but you can show everyone else. You can show the camera as well. I'll turn around so I can't see.
Got it. Thanks.
And to make sure this is fair, I don't want you to think I'm cheating. The thing is, I will cheat. I just don't want you to think I'm cheating. Oh. Alex, thank you. It makes my job easier.
Of what? You won't know.
Oh, I don't know that part. I like you, Alex. I appreciate your help. Larry, on your card, you're gonna write your name to make sure it's the only card of its kind. So the cap is off, so be very careful. You're gonna write your name across the face of the card. This makes sure, even if all the cards were aces, that's the only one of its kind. I'll take back the card and the marker as well. And let's recap. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. We're going to take Larry's card. We're going to go through what we might call the hero's journey with the card to the center of the deck, inside the deck. I'm going to do this 3 times. At the end of the 3 times, you will see how it's done. But if you don't see how it's done, I'll just explain how it's done. It's not on top. That's not your card, right? It's not an ace. There's no name on it. It's not the 8. Was that your card? It's not the ace. It doesn't have the writing on it. But Larry, all you have to do is give your hand a little magic wave over the deck. Watch what happens. Are you a magician too?
No wait and see.
I am going to wait and see. That was done.
Jitterbug.
Take a look. It brings the ace back to the top. Let's hear it for Larry.
How did you do that?
I don't know what to do.
Now that was a little quick, but remember I said I'd do it 3 times. That was just 1 time. I'm going to do this again. And each time we're going to peel back the layers until you see how it's done. I'm going to bend the card really big. I did a small bend a moment ago, but with the big bend, you'll really be able to see where it goes. So even though it goes into the middle of the deck, we know the bent card, Larry's card.
Oh.
So when Larry waves his hand, watch what happens.
What?
Magic. Larry.
Let's hear it for Larry.
I studied really hard for that.
Good job.
Thank you for playing along.
Now, I think...
Wait.
That was number 2. But there's still one more time. I'm taking the bend out as best I can. I'm going to do this one final time. But this time, I'm just going to place the card halfway inside. Just halfway. And you're all going to see how it's done. Except for you, Ann. You're not going to see a thing.
But I'll share.
But it's nothing against you. It's just that you're too close.
Okay.
If I was doing this for Paul, you would see everything, but then Paul wouldn't see it, right? This happens in our everyday lives. We get too close to things and we don't see what's going on. But Paul will explain at the end anyway. Ace of diamonds goes back inside the deck, just halfway. You're going to push it the rest of the way. Just push it all the way in. Let's hear it for Anne. Oh, I almost forgot. I did it 3 times. I did it 3 times. You didn't see a thing, but Larry probably saw everything, right? We're going to finish Larry's. This is Larry's hero journey. Larry has gone into the cave of the deck 3 times, and each time he's always found his way back out again. Now, you didn't see a thing, but probably everyone at home saw everything that was happening because you had this eagle's eye view of things. Instead of having the ant's eye view where you miss all the details, the eagle's eye view, you step back, you can see more of the details. We were so focused on what was going on over here that we weren't seeing what was going on somewhere else, up here, right? The same thing happens in our everyday lives. We focus on the things that we think are important, all the while we're missing the things that are truly important for a happy and positive life. In fact, there's this little card that's been sitting over here. This is I was looking for this earlier, I couldn't find it, but then as I was digging through my bag just before I started, I found that little folded up card. Perhaps you saw that on the table from the very beginning. Did you see it on the table earlier, Ann? No. You see, because we were looking, but we weren't seeing what's right in front of us. I'm glad you didn't see it, because that ties right into what we're saying. That card, from a different deck of cards, what are the chances that this is the ace, Larry's ace from a different deck of cards? What do you think the chances are?
50-50?
1 out of 5,000.
It's very
52
slim.
times 52.
Maybe not 1 out of 5,000, but maybe 1 out of 52, maybe.
All right. I was thinking you had to multiply it.
Oh, okay. But let's take a look and see what card this is. The ace of diamonds.
Whoa.
Not just any ace of diamonds.
Wait a minute.
Larry's ace of diamonds. You didn't sign any other cards, right, Larry?
I don't know.
This is the only card you signed.
Wow, Larry.
Big hand for Larry.
Yeah, all right. I get to keep that.
You get to keep it as a souvenir of the fun time that we've had
What at River Garden?
right here at the River Garden. You know what I think might be a fun thing to do at this point, especially for those of you who just arrived. We've been talking about magic. We've been talking about missing things that are right under our noses. And I think a great way to dive into this further, I have a little magic trick that I can teach you. I'm going to teach you this trick. And by teaching it to you, it'll really drive home how this works. This is a special $50. Alex, you can take a look at the $50. Make sure that is a regular coin that you might find on eBay. We're going to use this coin to demonstrate how magic works.
You know, there's one thing that
Listen.
caught.
Watch what he's going to do.
Watch close. It's going to disappear. It's going to disappear. 1, 2, 3. The coin stays. But the pen disappears. Where could the pen possibly?
It's in your
It
hand.
was in my hand.
Behind his ear.
What I like about this trick is that the setup was, you thought the coin was going to disappear, right?
You know, it's a pencil.
But I didn't say the coin would disappear. I just said it would disappear. And I meant the pen. This happens all the time. It highlights the illusion of communication. The illusion that it's taken place. What I said was true. It's just that we interpret the events in our lives in many different types of ways. I'm going to show you one more time so you can see the eagle's eye view. If I turn it this way, you will see everything that I do. The pen, the coin. We go 1, tap. We count 2. We go tap. But on 3, look what I do. I put it behind my ear, and then I come back for 3. And everyone is trying to figure out where the pen goes. And when that happens, that's when we can make the coin disappear. Or we get an even bigger round of applause. Well, that I can't tell you. That's it's a trade secret, yeah.
in your other ear.
Oh, maybe it is behind my, no. Maybe it's behind your ear, I don't know. That would be a trick.
Oh, it's in my pocket.
Oh, there it is! When I was a kid, David Copperfield was my biggest inspiration. David Copperfield inspired me to want to become a magician. As children, we're often told all the things that we can't do. You can't do this, you can't do that, sit down, shut up. Adults can be so mean to children sometimes.
Yeah.
And yet, here was this grown man doing what no one is supposed to be able to do. He was making the Statue of Liberty disappear. What? He was walking through the Great Wall of China. There's no windows and doors. I was like, time out, who does this? He was this grown person doing what you're not supposed to do, like physically be able to do, let alone being allowed to do. And that's how I knew, even from a young age, that I wanted to be a magician. And ever since the beginning, I've always been looking for the greatest magic trick of all. I've been looking, I thought it would have to do with something to do with card tricks, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors. But what I eventually came to understand is that real magic has nothing to do with tricks at all.
It's your imagination.
That's a huge part of it. That is a huge part of it. You're right, Alex.
And
Because
sometimes your imagination can bend like things like a mirror.
Okay, now it's his turn.
Your imagination can bend things like a mirror. Like when I see an object, my brother thinks it's far away, it's up close. You know what it's called?
what's it called?
Optical illusion.
Just like magic. Magic is this illusion. I like to think of magic as a reflection, though, of reality. So magic, this is one of my favorite definitions. Magic, like art, is the lie that points to the truth.
Yeah.
Because we know it's all just tricks. We know that there's this secret behind it. But even though it's this lie, like when you see a painting, you're not really seeing, like on the handout that I passed out, that picture of the mountain, that's not really a mountain, that's just ink from my printer, right? But it points to the truth. It's pointing to the truth. This whole presentation today, I call this presentation the hero's journey to joy. And I say that, I say it's this hero's journey to joy because so often we are afraid to look at our past. We're afraid to look at our quote-unquote demons. We're afraid to look at all the things that we've been avoiding. In fact, one of my favorite quotes comes from the great mythologist Joseph Campbell. He says that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Yeah.
And so often this treasure that we're
Always.
seeking is
Always.
healing our past hurts. Healing in the mythological realm, lens, it's this disruption to our ordinary world. And what I've discovered is that real magic has much more, instead of being about tricks, instead of being about smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand, it has everything to do with this, because this is something that has not only changed my life, but it's also saved my life along the way. And it saved many people's lives. And to understand even further about what I mean, to put this into the context of how I came to understand this, and I'd like to pose a little question or a little reflection. And the question here is, think of the last time that you were disrupted by something outside of your control. It could be something as simple as a friend or a family member or a colleague doing something that they weren't supposed to do, or maybe something surprising, something out of the ordinary. It could be a traffic jam or a traffic accident. It could be a rainstorm that ruined your parade, or a sunny day that ruined your ice skating trip. Whatever the case may be, think of whatever this trigger was that disrupted your quote-unquote ordinary world. Are you all? I hope everyone at home is thinking of something as well, something that just is disrupting your ordinary world.
Okay.
Here's the question for this reflection. How did you respond to it? Now, you don't have to answer out loud, but just think about what your natural response was. It said that we can respond by default or we can respond by design. And this presentation is about if we have negative defaults to create more positive designs. Because there are many things in this life that we truly can't control. We can't control nature, we can't control the weather, we can't control our biology, our DNA, and we can't control the thoughts, feelings, emotions, words, and actions of others. But what we can do is we can decide and we can control how we respond to these things. It comes down to one of two things. We can choose to be frustrated by this and use it as an excuse to give up, or we can choose to be fascinated by the whole thing and use it as an opportunity to build ourselves up and build up those around us as well. Now, a number of years ago, I experienced a disruption to my own world, my own ordinary world, that at the time, a psychologist who I found myself talking to involuntarily, he described that what I was experiencing was something that was called a temporary or situational depression. That's what he explained it as. But over a period of 3 years, I came to see it not as temporary depression, but as persistent depression. Because I was grieving not just the trigger that set off this disruption, but I also was grieving the loss of who I once was. I became someone who I never knew myself as. So I became so frustrated by this disruption that I ultimately gave up. I literally gave up, and I wanted nothing more to do with life. But here's the fascinating part. I was still alive. And even after 3 years, there I was. I gave up, but I was still alive. And I came to understand that I had a choice. And we all have this same kind of choice. This idea that I was holding on to, this idea of a choice, is what I want to share with you. This is the big idea. And I've already mentioned this word, but now I'm going to mention it, and hopefully it's going to be an aha moment for you folks. This idea that changed my life, transformed my life, and literally saved my life is fascination. Fascination. We can choose to be frustrated by life, or we can choose to be fascinated. And to understand how fascination, in light of life's disruptions to our ordinary world, can lead us to positive experiences rather than the negative experiences, I'm going to talk about something I've talked about in past presentations. So if you folks are watching at home and you've seen past talks, I talked about last month the 5 levels of happiness. The idea that happiness is a spectrum. It's not just one thing, but it's a whole spectrum of things. All the way from despair all the way to joy and everything in between. But to really understand this, we're going to do it in the context of Joseph Campbell's ideas of mythology, and specifically the hero's journey. Now, this hero's journey is this reoccurring structure that we see in storytelling, we see it in movies, we see them in books, but we can also see the hero's journey as reflected in our own lives. We can see our own lives as this hero's journey. And there are key words along this journey that act as signposts. And these signposts are what I call the 5 levels of happiness. And each level goes along with one of these stages in the hero's journey. Now, in the structure that Joseph Campbell and many other mythologists, like Christopher Vogler and all others who talk about myth, there's many, many different levels. I'm just boiling it down to 5 essential levels. Well, really 6, but it's really 5. And you'll see why. And it all starts with our ordinary world. This is the ground floor. This is the ordinary world. This is what we're experiencing right now. This is me talking to you, Anne, and this is This is us just hanging out. This is our ordinary world. And this is the state that we all accept. We accept this ordinary world as ordinary. That's the first level, is acceptance. It's the same ground floor for happiness. Happiness is built on acceptance, but also unhappiness is built off of acceptance. We could choose to be fascinated by things we can't control, or we could choose to be frustrated by the things that we can't control. And that brings us to the trigger. In the hero's journey, there's this something that disrupts our ordinary world, and we can choose to respond with frustration and start digging a hole into unhappiness, or we can choose to be fascinated and build ourselves up rather than giving up. So level 1 of happiness, fascination. Level 1 of unhappiness is fascination. Level 1 of unhappiness is frustration. Next, the call to adventure. When fascination is faced with these disruptions, this becomes a call to adventure. And this is where curiosity leads to inspiration. Because if we're not fascinated, we're not going to be curious, we're not going to be looking for creative solutions to these disruptions in our life. But when we are fascinated, it leads to empowering dreams, empowering goals as solutions to our life's disruptions. Conversely, if we choose frustration instead, we're going down, that chokes curiosity. We're not curious anymore because we're just getting frustrated, and we're more willing to give up, preventing inspiration, leading to confusion. So level 2 of happiness is inspiration. Level 2 of unhappiness is confusion. Once we have these empowering dreams and goals, and we become motivated into action, this is where the real journey begins. And I just have it as this one small paragraph in here, and I have a few copies of these that I will give you folks, but really the journey could fill volumes. There's so many things we could talk about the journey, but for our purposes, the journey, level 3 of happiness is motivation, level 3 of unhappiness is discouragement. When we're not curious, we're not inspired, we don't get empowering dreams and goals, we become discouraged, and we will never jump into action. Next, we have the ordeal and reward. The ordeal and reward. At some point during the journey, the hero inevitably comes face to face with the biggest challenge and receives the due reward. Now, this success serves as positive affirmation that despite the challenges, the hero is going to keep on fighting the good fight. Conversely, if we've been discouraged into inaction, we can receive negative affirmations. We can receive negative affirmations for not achieving success because, misery loves company. Everyone loves pity parties. We all like to say, oh, woe is me. We love this victim mentality. I know for me, during those 3 years, I loved the sympathy everyone was giving me. Oh, poor Jonas. Oh, poor Jonas. I fed on that. I loved it. Even though I hated my life, I loved that. So why would I ever want to build myself up if I was getting these rewards for it, right? So level 4 of happiness, positive affirmation. Level 4 of unhappiness, negative affirmation. Finally, we get into the transformation. This is the final stage of the hero's journey, and it's the transformation of the ordinary world. This is where we experience the highest levels of happiness, which I define the highest level of happiness. This is joy. This is where true enjoyment and excellence becomes possible due to the hero's courage to take on the challenge of the transformational journey. Conversely, when the hero is content with the illusionary rewards of negative affirmation, because they're not really rewards, but it's the illusion of rewards, this can lead to the experience of hopeless despair. So level 5 happiness, joy, this is the goal. Level 4 unhappiness, despair. My own story, again, I spent 3 years experiencing this dark night of the soul, as they say. I was experiencing the pits of despair. And one day, I embarked on a journey because I realized I was still alive. There was this piece of me, even though I had given up, there was this piece of me that said, well, if I'm alive, why don't I live while I'm alive? So many people are afraid that their life is going to end, that they don't consider that maybe their life hasn't even begun yet. So I embarked on this journey to crawl out of despair and back to the solid ground of acceptance. And once on that solid ground of acceptance, I decided from that day forward, I was going to make some better choices. And the very first choice that I made was a simple one, and yet a profound one. From then on, instead of getting frustrated, I was going to become fascinated. I was going to maintain curiosity. And in so doing, I became the hero of my own journey, the hero in my own story, inspired and motivated to answer this call to adventure, to grow, to become more than I ever dreamed I could be. To now, I'm sincerely living the highest levels of happiness that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, John?
But this is what I'm so excited to share with you folks, because it has been transformational for me, and as I've been reading and sharing these ideas with others, I found that there are other people like me who have also seen their life as this hero's journey. And I wish I knew then what I know now, because this could have been very helpful during that initial trigger that sent me spiraling. And seeing your life as this myth can be very exciting. It's like literally living a movie or a fascinating book. One thing that I like to do is I like to imagine who would play me in a movie. Like if my life was turned into a movie, who would play me? Have you ever thought that about who would play you, Anne? Do you know? No? No?
Not yet.
Not yet, Judith? Have you ever? No? Larry?
Nope.
No? Russ?
Absolutely not.
I think about this all the time, and I always come up with the same answer. I have this, every time I think this, it's always the same actor comes to mind. And a lot of people don't understand why I choose this actor, but I choose this actor because I'm quite the character. I have many facets. I have my absurd jokes, I have my magic, I have my serious moments. In this actor I have in mind, very versatile. I'm of course talking about the very prolific and the amazing actor, Eddie Murphy.
I knew it.
You did!
I did.
I'm so happy.
I knew it.
I'm so happy.
It just came to me.
She wrote it down on a card here, I see it.
One thing to start thinking about, if you've ever been frustrated, if you've ever been confused or discouraged, or if you currently are, which I hope you're not, but if you are, I encourage you to try fascination on for size. And if you do want to see it perhaps through this mythological related lens, I have some props for you that you might find helpful. Oh, actually, I also have these on these handouts. If you want to take one and pass them
I'd
down.
love to take one. Thank you.
And have pens if you want to jot down notes now, if you want to write down any notes later. Take a pen and pass them down as well.
Sure, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Here you go, doll.
Larry?
And these questions are simple.
Thank you.
Number one, if your life were a myth, how would you describe your ordinary world?
Well,
So if your life were a myth, what would your ordinary life be
how
like?
about,
The second question, thank you, Larry. Did you get a pen?
oh,
I guess I do.
Oh, you did. The second question, what trigger is disrupting your ordinary world? So what is causing distress to your world? Are you frustrated or are you fascinated? Number three, what's your call to adventure? What are your dreams? What are your goals? What are your ideas to transform this disruption? Number four is, have you begun your journey? If so, what's motivating you? And if not, what's getting in your way? Number five is, what rewards are you seeking? What positive affirmations have you already received? And lastly, number 6, what kind of transformation are you working towards? What joys have you already experienced? Now, it's been years since I first went through these same prompts for myself. But again, I could say that after going through these, it's been 8 years. Actually. It's been 8 years since I first went through these, and I can say with authority that choosing fascination, seeing seeing myself as the hero of my own story, has literally transformed and saved my life. Now, this doesn't mean that sad things still don't happen. You know, disappointments still hurt. I still cry when sad things happen, but I also know that seeing life from this other perspective of things, instead of being frustrated and giving up and being fascinating and building myself up, it makes the dark days less dark. It makes sad days a little less sad, because for 2 reasons. Because one, now I see, instead of ignoring all the possibilities, I'm exploring all the possibilities. And I also know that now I have this process. I have these questions that will help me stay inspired and stay motivated, instead of, if I find myself using too many negative words, I realize, oh, I'm falling back down below acceptance. Well, that's not a good thing. So, as our parting ideas, I'd like to leave you folks with this thought. No one and nothing can make us enjoy life, and no one and nothing can make us excel in life. These are personal choices that we can all make, and we choose to enjoy life, when we choose to be fascinated instead of frustrated, when we choose to explore the possibilities rather than ignore the possibilities, and we choose to excel in life when we take what we know and we take what we've been given, and we choose to do something amazing with it. And I'm going to go back to a quote that I said at the very beginning. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. What are you afraid of? And if you don't think you're afraid, well, what are you avoiding? What cave are you avoiding going into? It's exactly that. That's where you're going to find your treasure. In other words, stay fascinated, my friends. It's been a joy being here. Thank you all so much for coming. I see we're working on the questions and the prompts. Please continue to do so. I'm going to be sticking around, but I think that about does it for you folks at home. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I'd like to thank all of our guests.
Where's the $50?
Oh, the $50 disappeared.